Hello and welcome to our roundup of the European Parliament's latest plenary session here in Strasbourg. The week saw action on a proposed financial transactions tax, on Ukraine's imprisonment of Yulia Tymoshenko. Her daughter came and paid a visit here, and on ways to crack down on member states that are slow to carry out EU legislation. We begin with a tax that could raise billions in revenue.
It may sound too good to be true. The European Commission says 57 billion euros could be collected with a minimum tax of 0.01% on derivatives and 0.1% on shares and bonds. Not only could it help cover the costs of the current financial crisis, it could disincentivize excessively risky activities by financial institutions. The Parliament's report on the measure proposed by the Commission strongly argues for EU-wide application of the Financial Transactions Tax, or FTT. The report wants to exclude pension funds, so not to impede savings for Europe's aging population. Sirpa Pietikainen, the EPP Group's shadow rapporteur on the issue, says the report still carries weight even if Parliament can only consult on tax matters.
We do not have the co-legislative powers, but it is a very strong signal from the Parliament to Council and to the Member States. Yes, we should have a financial transaction tax to treat all the industries equally and for the finance sector to shoulder their responsibility. Plus, it adds the transparency. And plus, it stabilizes slightly the economy.
But the UK and Sweden remain opposed to the measure, so it's a hotly debated issue even within the EPP Group itself. Jean-Paul Gauzès is the group's coordinator on the measure.
The principle of financial taxes has been a big discussion in the EPP Group. The group's position is this: we favor the principle of a financial transaction tax. We think that the best level, the best field of application, would be at the global level, but we are lucid, and we know it's difficult. So we think that it should be done at the European level and among the 27. We are more reserved about the effect that there could be if it's reinforced cooperation among only a few states, that there would be greater risks of transferring financial firms abroad.
With the Euro 2012 games in Poland and Ukraine fast approaching, Parliament has joined calls to put more pressure on the government in Kiev over its human rights policies. But what kind of pressure? What kind of boycott should there be?
At issue ahead of Euro 2012, the Ukrainian government's jailing and alleged beating of opposition leaders, including former Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko, one of the leaders of the Orange Revolution. Her daughter Eugenia came to Strasbourg to support greater EU pressure on the government of President Viktor Yanukovych.
The only way we see that we repeated already for months is to start at least a public investigation into the corrupt activities of the high officials that are already known facts. And my mother made such a public appeal via her defense a week ago. We're just hoping that this can be heard. We're really also hoping for the decision of the European Court of Human Rights that can, we believe, could be in our favor, and political prisoners will be released.
The Parliament backed a resolution calling on European officials to boycott the games in Ukraine. A number have already vowed to skip the games, including German Chancellor Angela Merkel and European Commission President José Manuel Barroso, both of the EPP family. The resolution's rapporteur, Elmar Brok of the EPP Group, says the boycott sends an implied message that Ukraine risks preventing greater ties with the EU.
We have to know that the Ukraine will not get an association agreement if there's nothing changed. We see one step forward that we have no medical treatment of Mrs. Tymoshenko, but it's just a small beginning, because it's not just Tymoshenko, it's not just the question of court cases, but it's also the question of the whole political motivation behind the whole judicial system. And we have to see whether that will be changed, and I think the deadline is the election in October. When there is not a fair and open election where the opposition can take fully part, then I think it's a problem. And this association agreement is initialed, and now the ball is in the garden of the Ukrainian authorities, and they have to know that there are certain limits to play with.
Yulia Tymoshenko says economic sanctions may be an option if nothing else works.
The tools and instruments chosen by the international political community, they're chosen very accurately. There should be legal and political instruments of pressure. Maybe if this doesn't work, and we see that it's not working, maybe there are certain economic instruments can be used to get the signal and to get the message. So far, we believe that only pinpointed restrictions to these high-ranking officials could work, not to the Ukrainian nation and economy as a whole, because corrupt activities of the regime are putting economics of Ukraine to their knees already.
Getting EU legislation approved can be a long and painful process. So can getting member states to carry it out. That's what this next piece of legislation is about, cracking down on the foot dragging.
Every year, the European Commission publishes an internal market scoreboard showing how quickly member states carry out single market directives. The EPP Group's Simon Busuttil is rapporteur of a measure the Parliament approved, calling for tougher and quicker enforcement.
We want a fast-track infringement proceedings, and we also want the Commission to exercise more independence when it comes to actually opening legal cases against individual countries. We're saying that the matter should be done in an independent matter, perhaps through the establishment of an internal market prosecutor that can act independently without undue political interference.
Busuttil says what's at stake is Europe's ability to grow itself out of the current crisis.
Our belief is that the internal market is the main instrument of the European Union for growth, and growth is what everyone is talking about. So what we need to do is make sure that the internal market is working. The problems with the internal market is that a number of laws that support it are not either being transposed into national law in different member states, or not sufficiently implemented, or else when they are not sufficiently implemented, there are no real remedies for citizens to complain and find a remedy to their problems.
That's all for now from the Strasbourg session. See you next week from Brussels. And find out more about the largest political force in Parliament by checking EPP Group.eu. Thanks for watching.